All right, cool.
So a fantastic show, David. You're once again in beautiful Brazil. We've got Mr. Victor Hugo Vaca with us today, and David, I know you're super excited. I'm super excited. We're very grateful that you're here. So, David, why don't you go ahead and do the introduction?
Well, thanks, Sean, and thanks, Victor, for being here and being so open. Because, like many, if not all, of the interviews that Sean and I are conducting over the last, I think this is the 14th day, Victor. So, what we're trying to do
Cool.
is not really like a marathon, but we're actually trying to create this World Impact News, or WIN, network, which is a win-win-win. There are no losers. And so
Nice.
even the worst case scenario in life, like for example, for people listening to this, how I met with Victor, this is our first meeting. But I came to know Victor and his work through Jesse Howe, in The Missing Link, in the interview that you did. I think it was about 2 hours. It's usually pretty substantial with Jesse. So you went into a lot of the details with your experience, your background, and basically who you are and what you're about. So I don't want to like speak on behalf of you for these details. But what's important is, like, Jesse Howe, for example, was on this show, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago now. So what we are trying to do, Victor, is we're actually trying to create this World Impact News as a hub. So in to link 1 hour windows, like 60 minutes, like all day. You can imagine, like, 60 minutes for me is one of the greatest shows ever. For the most part, the reporting for me, when I look into some of the stuff that they report on, is pretty good. It's not really so religious. And if it is biased one way or another, all you need to do is express that. And let's be open about it. If this is our opinion or something, state it. But if it is a fact and there's mathematics and science behind it, then that needs to be expressed equally, or even more forcefully, I guess, because right now people are tired. People are tired of the BS in our world, Victor. And you know that better than most people, even better than me. I mean, that's the whole idea of this conversation and this integration, this hub, is synergistically. When we are individuals, we may succeed. We'll have different things going on, but most of the time we live a life, and when we die, we really didn't fulfill any purpose or real meaning, because we, first of all, didn't know that we had one. So these are the things that you explain in the work that you do artistically. From what I know, it's the modern art music movement, or MAMM, MAMM. You could talk about that a little bit once I complete. This is only going to be another moment before I want to try to dovetail and help the audience to understand the dynamics of what we're talking about here. And communication is really what your specialty is. And your experience is that you need to be creative in how you express yourself, but you can express yourself in this world. And there are going to be certain entities, people, call it whatever, the Italian mafia, the cannibals, or they're going to want to eat you alive. And you talk about that. That's our tendency, is to devour each other. We don't need to do that. We can live in a civil society, and we can thrive, and we can be intelligent. Like, I'm not even saying extra intelligent. I'm talking about totally intelligent. And so, on this show, we talk about, we try not to dabble too much into controversial issues, but they do pop up. And there's usually a, scientific reason that kind of either verifies or expels whatever the mass public believes. But the thing is, it's very rare to get to that 0.00 absolute. See, that's what we've determined through the work that Sean does with all of these medical devices. By the way, I'm going to let him talk about that and how that could impact the world that you're in and how you're expressing yourself. Because health, first thing, Victor, what I kind of bring to the attention of people. There's three things that we have universal rights. This is my opinion, but it's pretty backed up, and I think when I say them, you'll agree. The first one is we we have the universal right to perfectly express ourselves. That's the actor in all of us. And even yourself, from what I was reading, you're considered like the modern day Andy Warhol. And for people that don't know the impact of that, it's all, very, very dynamic individual, a huge contributor to intelligence, consciousness, and all of that. But really, ultimately, Andy spoke about everyone's story, or what Joseph Campbell talks about, the hero's journey. In these things, the 5 minutes of fame, get on your soapbox for 5 minutes. And even the 5 minute pitch, we talked with Dave Meltzer. I don't know if you know Dave, the name Dave Meltzer from Bloomberg Financial News. He has a show called the 5 minute pitch. So basically, when you go in front of Dave, you need to be ready. And it is 5 minutes because he times it. And if you don't kind of choreograph or at least be authentic, that's really the secret, I think. And you could talk a little bit about what that really means in the world of art and music and how you express the authenticity. You don't make that up. It's not like an artist that comes to 0.00 absolute nothing and just makes it up. No, you carry these inspirations and messages with you. We are soul mates, or we're all soul. We all came from the same source. That's the whole purpose of the things that Sean and the technology we're talking about. Quantum 5D, in quantum in general is about wholeness. It's about unity. If you don't have unity and you allow for that chaos and conflict and war, you're going to be suffering forever. And that's what the United States, and I know you're an American, I believe you are, a Canadian. You could talk about that a little bit, but united we stand, divided we fall somewhere. Call it purgatory, call it hell, or whatever. But it isn't as pleasurable as here on Earth right now, speaking with Victor Hugo Vaca II and my very good friend Sean Callahan from US MedBeds. So I'm going to let you go ahead. I know already we're 10 minutes into it. And the purpose of this show is for you to self-promote, and also for us at some point, I'm going to chime back in towards the end, Victor, and I'm going to make a direct proposal to you today so that it's a yes or no. Either it feels right and you're going to go with it, or, it's time to look for other channels. And that's, we are at a point right now. The real key milestone, Victor, for you is February 21st. Is this festival that basically I created about a month ago, and I've been really working hard trying to get Sean involved now that I met him just about a couple of weeks ago. So all of this stuff is like, how it is as a filmmaker and an art director, Victor. When it happens, it all comes together. And if somebody like yourself on an executive level isn't like the conductor in front of an orchestra, but your orchestra is 8 billion people. Literally everyone has a musical instrument or some way, either dance or some poetry, storytelling, or however. Everyone has that ability. And I'm happy to make this introduction and make this interview happen here today for the public. This is a time capsule. And like I said, anything you want, if you want to make little minis and whatever, this is a promotional opportunity. And eventually, the 24/7 programming is something that would allow us to do all forms of art, all. So I'm going to let you go ahead. Maybe, I don't know if Sean, you want to chime in, or let Victor go ahead and go into like a short presentation. Go ahead. Thank
10
you.
minutes in and poor Victor hasn't said a word. Victor, that was the most grand lead-in for you as a lead-in, and I definitely want to give you the floor. So thank you so much for being with us, and tell us a little bit about yourself and your history.
Well, let me start by saying obrigado, David, and amo verde y amarelo, amor para mis hermanos y hermanas en Brazil. And Sean, thank you for having me on your show. I want to also, the modern art music movement is the fusion of art, music, film, fashion, literature, and education, fostering peace, love, and compassionate wealth worldwide. So it's a non-political, it's just all about the soul currency, because people are not understanding that we're not living in a material world. That's just a distraction. What fuels us and what has kept us going for so long is the love, the energy, the strongest force that we have. And I feel that with the art and the music, that is what stirs the human spirit and keeps us going, because that's our history. We can go to a museum and we can look at the paintings and we can realize what our ancestors were going through in their past. So that's the modern art music movement. That's what I founded and trademarked, and that's what I hope my legacy will be. I was living in China and I moved there to bring the modern art music movement as a cultural ambassador to Asia so that we can build bridges, because right now the world is consumed with fear and the negative frequency that's bringing everybody down. And I was told that if I went there, that I was going into the belly of the beast, that the Chinese are the enemy. And I don't always believe what the talking heads tell me. So I went there and I got a 10-year visa to work with the masters in the art world there to create huge sculptures. I was going to work with the guy who did the Martin Luther King Memorial in Washington, D.C., which a lot of people were upset at, that a Chinese communist was the one who did the sculpture for a black icon. And he and I spoke at the U.S. Embassy in Guangzhou, and we committed to do a work of art that would unite the United States and China. Alas, the Wuhan virus broke out, and I received a letter from the US State Department warning me that I had 48 hours to escape, that if I did not leave China, that I could be held as a political prisoner, or that my life would be in danger, I could be killed, and there was nothing that the US government could do to help me. So when you ask the question of who I am and what I believe, I'm constantly changing, just like most people are. If you think you are the same person that you were just 5 years ago, think about it. You're really not. And one of the things that I really appreciate with the show that I've created, the Modern Art Gonzo Journalism Show, is that I have guests from all over the world and just real people, not just celebrities, not just public figures, but also just real people. And I've noticed that everybody's a hero if they want to be. We can choose to be heroes or we can choose to be demons and scoundrels. And right now, at this moment in history, it seems like the demons have taken over. People are idolizing these false idols who are not with your best interest. They're caught up in the material world. And again, they've forgotten about the soul currency. And you can be a hero just if you're walking outside your house and you see a little old lady needing help with their groceries. Take an extra minute or two to just help her get to where she's got to go. Or just if you see somebody in need of help, help them. That fuels you. Believe it or not, there's a force that happens when you put out positive energy into the universe, because I'm noticing also that we are consciously connected. And so that's why people right now are feeling this angst, this low vibration. You had 2 plane crashes within 48 hours in what I call the United States of Israel. And that's because the United Slaves of America have become part of this genocide against non-Jews. And it's real sad, because I'm noticing again that it's those that you're not allowed to talk about that you should be aware of. And there's only one group of people who identify as Jews that say that if you say anything about them with regards to either Holodomor in the Ukraine, the Bolshevik Revolution in Russia, or the Mao Revolution in China, and that's not counting all the other over 1,000 times that these people who identify as Jews, who are actually name stealers, because then if you understand the Khazarian Mafia, and then getting back to who I am now, some people have labeled me as an anti-Semite, which is not true at all. If you understand the definition of Semite, it's a language. And the people that are actually being genocided are Semites. They're the Palestinians. when they do a DNA test, it turns out that the so-called Jews, they're not even from that area. Benjamin Netanyahu, that's not even his real name. He's from Poland. There's people from all over the place, but they're not from the Palestine area. So what happens is, I've also noticed that the people that control the news media, that control the textbooks, the schools, the radio, the internet, are the ones who are able to brainwash and convince people that the truth is inverted. So, for example, when I chose to escape China 2 hours before the last border closed, on the day that the Wuhan virus whistleblower Dr. Li Wenlang died, I ended up in the former Soviet Union, the Republic of Georgia, which recently there was a US attempted coup, just like what happened in the Ukraine. And I witnessed it on the ground that these people had a free and fair election, and they were scratching their heads going, wait a minute, the United States, who clearly had a coup in the year 2000 and brought in who's known as Pedo Pete by his own son, and stole the 2020 election. Whether you like Biden or not, we've got to start getting real here, people, because you are enabling this evil, and the evil is having consequences. So again, we're living in a world that's fueled by soul currency, not this material. How many Bentleys do you have in your garage? How many mansions do you have? How much money do you have in the bank? All that's an illusion, and people are going to have the hard truth given to them real soon. So just like what you were saying, David, about believing in 60 Minutes, I can tell you this. CBS News 60 Minutes, and producer from New York City contacted me because they heard that I was one of the last Americans to escape China before the Wuhan virus border closings. 60 Minutes interviewed me for 2 hours, and they never aired the interview. And the reason they never aired the interview was because I didn't fit the narrative that they wanted. That's what I realized back in February of 2020, before most of the world even knew about this China virus, which it is. It's the China virus, just like it's the Black Plague and the Spanish flu. But this entered in the world into the realm of woke, where people, just to go along to get along, quite literally sacrificed their lives, rolled up their sleeves, and said, you know what? If some guy named Anthony Fauci tells me that this is safe and effective, then yeah, I'll go ahead and take an experimental bioweapon disguised as a vaccine created by DARPA. And now the world is seeing the consequences, but not really, because they're really not reporting it in the fake news media. The people are noticing, though, when they drive to their local mall or the market and they pass by the cemetery, that there's an unusual number of fresh lots there, because their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers are dying. And of course, they're calling it turbo cancer, but people are not understanding what turbo cancer is, and they're seeing that young children are having dementia. So what happened was, when I was living in China, the Chinese were pretty open with me because, like I said, they thought I was going to stay there for 10 years, and that was truly my intention. I never planned on having a show on the internet that is now becoming quite popular with people because, like David said, I'm real. I started this show because I was getting death threats. I was being told that I was going to be murdered and assassinated because I was telling the truth, like I did on 60 Minutes. But I then realized that it was a psyop, because they wanted to create the fear. I was telling people, no, this is not it. And the reason I found out was because the way I was able to escape China was my handler, Huaiping Wang, told me that I would be the face for the personal protective equipment and selling the vaccines around the world. He says, we're going to make you rich and famous. We're going to take you to all these different television shows. You're going to tell everybody it's not China. And then we're going to put you in contact with Governor Newsom. You're going to sell the masks for like half $500 million and everything. And you're going to sell the vaccines. But this was in February of 2020. And I said, wait a minute, you guys have vaccines already? And so I started, I mean, you don't have to be a genius to figure out that something's up. So I told him no. And when I had the chance to go on live television in Georgia, I spilled the beans. I told them that the Russians were right in closing their borders. because they are right next to China and they didn't trust what was going on. So then the Chinese Huiping Wang told me, well, listen, we're going to be going to all these different countries in Europe. We're going to make our way to the United States. If you don't do it, we'll get somebody else to do it. And that's just the way it is. People are starting to notice that there's too many order followers. There's too many people willing to sell their souls for the Babylonian magic trick, this illusion of wealth. And so the nurses, the doctors, the police officers, the military, the people that you think are your friends have turned out to actually be psychopaths and serial killers. Realize if you're a nurse and you're injecting children or elderly people with experimental bioweapons for $25, $30, however much money you consider is the right amount of money to kill people, I don't know how else to say it. It's just not cool. And if your mother and your father are doing this and they're allowing this, then realize it's a strange feeling to have knowing that your mother and father or uncles or aunts or brothers or sisters are like complicit in genocide. And so, yeah, I've been living with this for the past 5 years, and I've been warning people on my show, which, like I said, I just started out because I wanted people to know that I'm not suicidal and that I love life and that I want to live. And I was warning people about this at the expense of losing my family and my friends because they all thought I was a conspiracy theorist or that I had lost my mind or that somehow moving to China had made me crazy. But the irony is, I ended up in the former Soviet Union and I'm surrounded by Russians and Ukrainians. So I've been getting the real scoop about what's really happening in the Ukraine, which is totally different than what's being fed to the Western world and the United States of Israel on the fake news media every night. What's happening in the Ukraine is it's the New Jerusalem plan. The Israelis are starting to realize, when I say the Israelis, I mean the central bankers, the synagogue of Satan, the Khazarian mafia. If you read Smedley Butler's War is a Racket, you'll understand. They use these wars to launder money, and I'm witnessing it firsthand. And I'm speaking to Ukrainians here who tell me that the Jews are coming in from Tel Aviv and they have briefcases full of cash and they're buying the rubble for pennies on the dollar. And then they're making gates and fences around it so that the Jews move in there and the Ukrainians, whose homeland it is, are not allowed in that area. And while the Ukrainians, who are mostly white, male, and Christian, are sacrificing their lives in this meat grinder, fighting their cousins, their brothers, their sisters, Russians and Ukrainians used to be the same place. They're all together. But the thing that they have in common is that they're Christian. So a lot of people, especially what I call the satanic Christians, who are Zionist, and they don't understand. God's not a real estate agent, but they think that somehow these people are God's chosen people without realizing. And again, I'm taking this from what rabbis have said. Yeah, we're God's chosen people, but what most Jews don't realize is our God is Lucifer. And this is a tough pill to swallow for people, just like it may be a tough pill to swallow that CBS News 60 Minutes is fake news, just like everything else. But I've not just taken one example, the creator who has put me on this path that I've not chosen, because I much rather would have been living in China. I was staying in five-star hotels, hanging out with billionaires and making art that was just on a whole nother level. But now I'm just couch surfing and hiding out in the Caucasus Mountains near the Black Sea, moving from place to place and having this show. But that's fine because I'm reaching people like you and like David, and I'm reaching people from around the world, because what David said is that we're lacking authenticity. And when you see these talking heads on television, and even when you see these people like Donald Trump, who I voted for twice before realizing, wow, I get it. I understand the plan. The plan was to put in Biden and make Biden have things so bad that even those people who hated Trump the most would be the first ones in line to vote for him. It's called the Hegelian dialect. And that's what we're experiencing right now. You create the problem, then you present the solution. But the solution is exactly what they wanted. That's why they're bringing in these Noahide laws, these anti-Semitism laws. The dollar is about to crash. These Russians call the dollar candy wrapper because they said that's all it's worth. And when I was living in China, the Chinese told me, they said, hey, listen, Victor, Did you know about the Mao Revolution, where people were literally having human soup? Mao was having parties with his Jewish buddies who were communists, and they would boil people in these huge kettles of like soup, and they would pull out an arm and they would eat it and stuff like that. And they said, Victor, these again, when I say it's the Jews, realize these are people who claim to be Jews. So some people get upset. They're like, oh, you can't say the Jews. Well, listen, you can say Christians, you can say Muslims, you can say things about white people, you can say things about Christians, straight white males, but you can't say anything about the Jews. It's not like that in China, and it's not like that in Russia. And it's refreshing to be outside of the United States, where I've noticed that there's more free speech in China and in Russia than there is in the United States. I never would have realized that unless I dared to get out of my comfort zone. When I was living in China, I was holding forums in front of a large group of people at Art Canton 2019, which was filmed and broadcast on television to millions of people. And I was explaining how free speech is just an illusion in the United States of Israel, where I was born and raised. And the only reason they allowed me to speak about free speech was because I was letting them know that the United States are a bunch of hypocrites. They claim that it's a land of the First Amendment and freedom of speech, but that's not the case. And so, yeah, it was unheard of. When I got off the stage, the Chinese were like, "Wow, you talked about free speech." Like they were shocked. They couldn't believe it. They were like, "I can't believe you just did that." And I was also the first artist to exhibit nudes at Art Canton 2019 because pornography is illegal there as well, which they told me. They said, listen, the Jews use pornography to as a weapon. And if you'll notice, and again, this stuff is all documented. I'm not making this up. In the Middle East, when they started these wars, they started playing 24-hour hardcore porn on the televisions. And the people were shocked, but they were shocked. And then they started watching the porn. And what ends up happening is the fighters who are supposed to have the energy to fight, after they're done doing what they do, watching pornography, they're too tired to fight. So yes, it's used as a weapon. And when I was living in China, pornography was illegal, but I noticed that during the lockdowns, which I was very fortunate to escape, because they quite literally were locking down my building. It was at the point where if you didn't have food or water and you didn't have electric, people were dying. People were committing suicide there. And I was one of the last people to escape my building as they were locking it up and with chain locks. And the landlord turned off the electric and the water, and I wouldn't have had enough food. And the soldiers weren't allowing me out. I had to have a friend of mine call on the phone and say, listen, he's got to go to the U.S. Embassy. You better let him out. Otherwise, the U.S. Embassy is going to get pissed. So, yeah, I got out and I caught 2 hours before last border closed. I got out of there. I had to like leave everything behind. I had to kind of like put a disguise on to get out. It was pretty intense. And yeah, I mean, I was there during the Hong Kong Revolution. I witnessed how that whole thing went down. So I believe that there was a reason for me to be here. I don't believe that we didn't choose to be here because this is an amazing time to be alive in human history. We are quite literally going through a transformation, and future generations will talk about this time. And if you believe in soul currency and reincarnation and stuff, I believe that each and every one of us has chosen to be here during this monumental time in human history. So I know that was a mouthful, but like I said, I'm changing every day. Even with this show that I'm on with you guys now, I can tell that I'm going to learn something new. So I take that, I go to sleep, I digest it, I let it simmer in my brain, and the next day I wake up a new person, a little bit smarter.
I love that. Thank you so much for all that information. And Victor, we've talked to many others, and when you take this path, I've always said many times, this is not for the weak and the meek. When you're out there bringing truth and you're speaking your truth, it's not about winning a popularity contest. It's about, having the heart and soul to do what you know is right in your heart and go out there. And that's certainly not the easy path. It's not the easy route to take. I want to circle back to a few things you talked about. The first is people taking the stage as demons or as saints, right? And getting on stage. I think the biggest issue that I've got right now is a lot of people aren't taking the stage and they're sitting off to the side and they're not really stepping up and really becoming active in playing a role to try to make the world a better place. And there's a lot of inactivity and there's a lot of the just kind of keeping your blinders on and not really open up to where we're at, what we need to do, and really even more importantly, just figuring out how in your everyday life you can be a more loving person. Because you bring up a very good point. Every day there's an opportunity to pay kind words to a stranger, to get a door for somebody at the local grocery store, to let somebody in traffic and say, hey, go ahead, to wave, to smile, and to share love and compassion. And those things that are basically unplanned and to people that you don't know, that is always the first start with all of us uniting and becoming loving people. The subject matter that we're getting into is very intense and it's very deep. And for me, Victor, because like with probably David and others, we're very well knowledge on where this whole thing is at and all the different layers of these components and all the different adjectives that this sort of dark side goes under because they wear a lot of different masks and they wear a lot of different robes, if you will, and go under different titles. But all when it's all said and done, it's a control mechanism. I believe, and you probably know even better than I do, that these people have been around and doing this for thousands of years. This is sort of a cult that's been, entrenched into society as a control mechanism and to keep us sort of dumbed down into lower vibrations. So when you get into the various different religious aspects of it, they pretty much, have taken over all that. Even myself, being brought up Catholic, would run from that title. Not that I'm not respectful of the Catholic faith, but having seen the pedophile priest being protected, having seen the whole exposure of the Catholic Church itself, I'm always a person that as soon as people tell me what they are, I'm always terrified because I'm thinking to myself, you're going to designate yourself as this because your actions and words will not actually allow me to see that you're a true heartfelt person. You're going to paste an adjective on and identify you're something right away. But what that tells me is that I won't be able to see that through actions and words. And ultimately, those are all adjectives because we're all one, I mean, we're all one big family. And it's that division that these people are so good at dividing. Oh, we're this and you're that, and that whole separation. And I really, there's a part of me where it's intense and it's serious, but there's a part of me, and I've said this in many videos, where I say, you guys are really good. I mean, you run a good show. You're very good at manipulation. You're really good at mind control. I do give you guys some credit for that because there is a part of me where it's like we're in this third dimensional reality. It's so crazy that in order to step out of the crazy, I have to almost look at it as almost this big play. And I, like you, have had family members, that are involved in this and not knowingly like pushing these agendas that they don't even realize. And namely, as much as I hate to say it, my mother, who's been in nursing her entire life and to her heart of hearts feels that if it's coming on the TV set and they say that that's reality, that's reality. And we all need to do it right away. And it's like, Mom, back up a step and pump the brakes because it's not what you think it is. And that, I've realized through the course of this whole thing and that whole transformation that went down was a real wake-up call for many people that were out there. And I think even somebody like my mom eventually will say, wow, you know what, I just didn't know. But what's done is done and what is, it is. And, some people just aren't like spiritually evolved enough to see through that. Everybody, I always say it's between them and God. I can preach to the world and some people will get it. And like with what you do, Victor, even like this show today being a time capsule, this message will get out and some people, bang, will instantly pick it up and go, wow, man, he's dead on. And some people you're planting a seed and maybe it takes 5-10 years before they really absorb that reality and really start to understand all that. But it's not until people stand up and speak their truth and take the path that's less traveled to start helping others find, the real reality of what's going on. So I have a lot of respect for you in that way. And the story is absolutely unbelievable with the whole thing with China. And, I have a lot of respect for you also to be able to give the world a perspective from the inside, not the billboard sign on the side of the road that says this is what it's all about, but actually say, I'm there and I've been there. And I really appreciate you sharing those experiences.
At this point, I think those of us who did not take the bioweapon disguised as vaccine, and those of us who are brave enough to name the enemy by name. And again, remember, the enemy is those that you're not allowed to talk to, because if you want to know who controls you, it's those that you're not allowed to talk about. So right now, I'm in survive 25 mode, because this is the year that the Deagle report, which is a military report for the United States, claims that there will be about 68 million US citizens left. So that means, according to that, there's going to be about 200 million people that are going to die in the United States. I visited the Georgia Guidestones personally. I went there, I saw it because I couldn't believe that there was something called the American Stonehenge, which had in, I think it was 12 or 13 different languages, written in granite, the what people call the Ten Commandments of Crackhead Jesus. Crackhead Jesus is a synonym for Satan, the Antichrist. And the first commandment that was etched in stone was to maintain the human population at 500 million people. So if you do the math and you believe the fake numbers, I don't believe it's 8.5 million. I don't know. It's probably less than that, but whatever. Let's say there's 6 billion people on Earth. Um, to maintain it at 500 million by 2030, if you know what the UN put out, Agenda 21 and then Agenda 2030, that means that by the year 2030, they want 500 million people left on Earth, of which, if you understand the Talmud, which is the Jewish Talmud, states that every Jew will have 2,800 slaves. And they're not going to be Jewish slaves. When I was living in China, the Chinese told me that the Jews plan on having the Asians as slaves because they have them as subservient, or so they think. But what I noticed when I was living in China is that the Chinese are not stupid, and the Chinese know exactly what's going on. And they were pretty brazen with me because they appreciated my having the cojones to go live with them. I didn't live near the US Embassy in Guangzhou, where most of the Americans lived, and where it was all nice with the Ritz-Carlton and the five-star hotels and everything like that. I wanted to live with the Chinese. I wanted to have the actual experience of what it's like to be amongst the real people. And so I lived on the outside of Guangzhou. And yeah, the real people there, they're good people. They're just like everybody else. When you travel around the world, I've been to Brazil. I've been blessed. I've been all over South America, Central America. I've been to Egypt, Africa. I've been to Israel. I've been to Palestine. I've been to the Gaza Strip. I've been to the West Bank. I've been to Syria. I've been to Jordan. I've been to these places where they tell you that you should not trust these people. And it turns out these people are good. I'm living in a gateway country right now. I see Iranians. These Iranians love America. They actually wear T-shirts that say USA #1. I'm like, holy cow, you're an Iranian? They go, yeah, we love America. I see people from Iraq here, and they're so kind to me. These people that I'm supposed to fear have been kinder to me than my own brothers and sisters and family in the United States. So it's really sad to see how divided the Americans are and how united the rest of the world is. Unfortunately, they're united against the United States government, because it seems like through the looking glass, I can see clearly, like the rest of the world, that the United States has been overtaken by bullies, and they're using taxpayer dollars to kill their own people through these bioweapons, through these directed energy weapons, through these weather weapons, through these chemtrails that people somehow think is like normal clouds up there, through the poisoning of the food, which people are starting to notice. When I lived in China, the Oreo cookies and the potato chips, they tasted different. So I didn't eat them that much. And they do that on purpose because in the United States, they put all sorts of stuff in there that makes the food addictive. But when I would eat the Oreos, and I used to love Oreo cookies, then when I was in China, I was like, wow, this tastes terrible. And then the same thing with the potato chips. So I started eating fresh food. And that's why the people in China are healthy because they're not being poisoned with the food. And you see that also here on the border with Russia. There's not GMOs. There's fresh food here. And yeah, it's really weird because I don't know, maybe it's a myopic vision or just a distraction of porn and video games that the United States has. And again, if you follow the money and you see who owns Pornhub and who owns OnlyFans and who controls the porn industry, it's the people that you're not allowed to talk about, you know? And so again, it's weaponized and it's all a distraction. It's to divide the family. And the other thing that I see that so gives me hope for the future. Again, my hope for the future is not in the United States. But when I walk around these streets in the former Soviet Union and I see the Russians and the Ukrainians, they're with baby carriages and they're couples and they're holding hands and there's families and they're all happy and they're walking around. They see a future in their children and their children aren't on cell phones. Their children are playing with other children. And the same thing in China. They released, at one point, they only allowed one child per family. But now they are allowing more than that. And you should see all the stores with baby stuff. And it's like everybody wants to have children now. It's so beautiful. Meanwhile, in the United States, people don't want to have kids. Women are going for world records of how many guys they could sleep with in 24 hours. I mean, it's just unbelievable the kind of psychosis that has impacted not only men, but women. They've lost love. And when you lose love, you've lost a lot because that's the greatest energy. You can say to anybody around the world, I've been to Mexico, I've been to the jungles in Honduras to go see the Copan ruins. And I speak to the people there, they're not interested in video games, they're interested in love. And that's what I notice is missing in the United States. So I pray for my brothers and sisters all the time. I've lost my family already. They've disowned me. My father took the bioweapon disguised as a vaccine, got a blood clot in his brain, went into a coma. As soon as his insurance ran out, they pulled the plug. My mother's dead. My sisters took the vaccine because, well, they had to go on vacation or they needed their job and they needed their pension. And I was like, listen, mandates are not laws. You can go ahead, let them fire you, then you could sue them. I said, but you're gonna die. This is a weapon. And they said, oh, you're crazy. You should take it. You're gonna die. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was in China. I know what's going on. I was in the wet markets. The wet markets never closed down. They're still open. I mean, people have such a short memory span. It's unbelievable. Even with Trump, I couldn't believe he shook Biden's hand at the swearing in ceremony. He should have, like, the cops should have come in and arrested Biden. The guy stole the election. And yet everybody is like praising Trump. It was unbelievable to hear, and so embarrassing for me to hear people in the United States applauding when President Trump announced that there's two sexes. I'm like, who doesn't know that there's two sexes? You could go to the most remote village in Africa and say, how many sexes are there? And they would be like, unga bunga, male, female. But no, in the United States, you need President Trump to say, okay, as of today, I declare that there is male and female. And the Americans are like seals. That's like, are you sick? You realize how embarrassing that is? I got to sit there and go, yeah, I was born in New York, the same hospital as Elmhurst Hospital, same hospital as that guy. Yeah, we're smart. We're smart.
I love that. So, Victor, we had David jump on, and David, welcome to the podcast today. Appreciate you being here. I know you jumped on and maybe missed the first 5, 10 minutes, but the floor is yours if you'd like to jump in and respond back or add anything to what Victor's been talking about.
I would. You can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Victor, very nice to meet you, man. So I
Likewise.
sat here listening and I turned my video on so you could see how much I was laughing at your commentary and shaking my head up and down and going, yes, we have become, Dietrich Bonhoeffer wrote a piece called Stupid People, right? And he talked about, I don't know if you guys know who Bonhoeffer was. He was a pastor in Hitler's Nazi Germany. And he pondered about how was it that these wonderful German people who were great artists and engineers and scientific minds lost their way. They literally lost their ever-loving mind. And this is what we see happening in America, right? I mean, particularly in America. And my wife and I talk about this, Vic, that if you don't mind me calling you Vic, it's easier.
That's fine. I've been called much worse. Don't worry.
But look, man, we so often talk about this is that we know in our spirit that we've been lied about so much that what we're presented as the rest of the world, the peoples of other nations, that we've been literally lied to. Look, do I have any aught against the Chinese people? That's absurd. Do I have any aught against, I don't know, the people in Turkey or Russia or anywhere? And the answer is absolutely no. So we've had this animus mindset put upon us, right? Hey, listen, I am a Christian. I only say that because I don't even like the term Christian, but the general public know that word, right? So just as Sean said that, well, now all of a sudden you got to view me as this. Well, no, because I don't believe anymore in denominational barriers in what we call the body of Christ. I don't even like the word church. I like the ecclesia, the called out ones, right? And so I use the word Christian painfully because that's what the average person understands, right? Right. And so so I view things from a scriptural perspective, but even that isn't adhered to by what we call mainstream Christianity. I have a book out, for example, it's called The Coming Flood of AI. And in it, I demonstrate, the subtitle is The Rise of the Nephilim Spirits. Y'all ever heard the term Nephilim?
Yes.
All right, okay.
Yes, but David, I would appreciate if you just,
Yeah.
for anybody that's watching, just
Yeah.
go into that and just give us a brief overview. Just because,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Okay. So there are a couple of camps. What we find, it's going to seem like I'm all over the place, but y'all can see what's behind me, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I traveled a lot too, and I worked for NASA for 12 years. I've been in technology for 30 plus years. And all of that stuff actually has meaning. Those bows and arrows, if you could see them hanging, are from a tribal leader called the Ararona tribe in the Amazonian basin. I spent a month with them. It was actually a science mission, a field science mission to study a meteor impact in the jungle canopy. So all of that stuff has meaning, right? But it's kind of representative of how my mind is. It's like there's like 10 things going on in my mind right now. That's just how I work. So it'll seem like I'm all over the place, but it's really all interconnected, if that makes any sense, right?
Totally. You have an artist mind. I'm the same way.
Brother, I love you. And listen, I see, is that your work back there?
Yeah. But I mean,
Yeah.
I totally get it because
Yeah.
it seems like you're all over the place. But what ends up happening is you get back to the point because we're not living a
Yes.
life. That's why people think when you ask me, what is your purpose? I mean, it's like, I don't know. My purpose is like I wake up in the morning and then I go, okay, God, whatever you have
Yes.
planned for me.
Okay.
Because
That's right.
like I said, I was supposed to be in
Yeah.
China,
Right.
and here I am, like on the border with Russia.
Yeah.
So what the heck? I
Yeah.
can't make.
Well, and it is like that. And so it's hard. There's a scripture that says that spiritual things are discerned spiritually, and that a spiritual man is judged by no one, and he judges all things. Okay. And then, so anyway, so the Nephilim, So the Nephilim, the root word is nephal. It means to fall or the fallen ones. And so in the Bible, but it's also an extra biblical text, there's lots of his historicity to all of this that what I'm going to tell you. But it seems out of our seminaries, out of the Christian world, and the general populace who claim to be Christians, there's two camps. One is that these Nephilim were sons of Seth, and another is that what the scripture plainly states is it says in Genesis 6 that there were giants on the earth in those days and also afterwards when the sons of God, in the Hebrew, B'nai Elohim, and it says they saw that the daughters of men were fair and they took any whom they wanted as their wives. Now, the King James Bible, really almost any English translation, makes that kind of pretty. In reality, it was heinous. They took any woman they wanted. They raped. They took married women. They somehow, you know the term sex magic, right?
Yeah, I just put out a video about that today. That's
Hey,
interesting.
well, right. And so this is where these ideals actually originate. See, we have to understand that this is another scripture. It's in Ephesians 6. It says, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities." That's a class of angelic hosts, by the way. Against powers, that's another class of angelic hosts. Against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in heavenly places. Some versions it says in high places. There's another scripture, it's Psalm 2. It says, "Why do the nations rage? The kings of the earth place themselves, and the rulers together take counsel together and plot a vain thing." When you see rulers, it's not talking about men. It's those rulers of darkness, okay? And so this is what we're really dealing with. Now, yeah, man, you're everything you said is spot on, okay? Those who say they are Jews but are not, that's another scripture, by the way, okay? And so it's my belief, by the way, that a segment of society that we call Black people are the actual Hebrews, and a segment of society that we call Native Americans are actually Hebrews, okay? And they don't really fully know it yet, but there's another scripture that indicates that they're going to come back into that knowing. They're the actual Hebrew people, right? That those people that we call, and again, this, man, you'll get venomous retorts, even from the quote unquote Christian community. Give me a better word, Sean, to use than Christian. I don't know. Give me a better word.
Satanic Christians. I call them the satanic Christians.
Dude, I love the, what was it? What was it? United States. I love that. I love that. That is so descriptive, man. That term you use, United States. So, yeah, satanic Christians. But listen, okay. This is just me, brother. I've been a peacemaker my whole life. That if we offend the people that we're trying to communicate an idea to, they're never going to hear us. And so for me to tell my brothers and sisters in Christ Jesus, that's the community terminology, the scripture, that if I offend them from the get-go, they're not going to hear anything else I say. This is why we have to speak the truth in love.
I'll tell you my retort to that is, if you've ever seen the movie The Exorcist, or you've ever spoken,
I've never seen it. I can tell you a story about that, but go ahead.
If you ever speak to people who have done exorcisms, and I sat next to
well-versed in demonism, yes.
When Pan Am was an airline, I happened to be blessed to sit next to Cardinal O'Connor, and my entire flight with him was probing him about exorcisms because I was curious about exorcisms. These people who are satanic Christians, Zionist satanic Christians, who see no problem with innocent women and children being slaughtered, especially their own kind. Christians are Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, some of the oldest Christian churches.
You're not going to get a disagreement. All I'm saying is that my approach is to come at them in love. Look, I'm reminded of when Jesus, a rich young man,
I
came.
want to finish my thought because I
Sure.
get what you're saying. I
Yeah.
appreciate what you're saying, but I always start my show by saying my job is not to be politically correct.
Well,
It
no,
is
I'm
to
not talking about, I hate political correctness. I loathe it.
My
Yeah,
job is to witness, analyze, observe, and document. Beautiful
sure.
Eu
chaos.
também.
Well,
When,
Vou. Eu
we
acho que
got,
vou, não foi?
uh-oh, got folks
so that
jumping in.
when the exorcism was taking place during the movie The Exorcist,
Yes, sir.
the priest was not worried about offending the devil
Of course
because the
not.
devil,
Well,
the devil couldn't take it when he was like,
yeah,
praying, and when he was like showing
absolutely.
when he was talking about Jesus Christ. That will affect. So what I'm trying to say is, like, those people that I offend with my
Yes.
truth,
Yes.
they're not going to be, they don't
Yeah.
want to be, because the thing is, sometimes I have to be offended to learn.
Hey, Victor, hang on.
Hey, just
Can we
real
get
quick,
Fabiano to mute?
Yeah, hey, Fabiano, if you could mute your,
I did not know. Sorry
Yes,
about that.
yes.
you're good,
yes.
brother, no problem.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
And
mean,
Sean, if you're hosting it, you should be able to control the mute.
I was
on the
just
mic.
looking at that, and
Yes,
I
yeah.
did it. Wow.
There we go.
Thank you.
brother.
and
Sorry.
we're in the final hour here. We're in
Right.
the great
What we've got
tribulation.
right now, we are in the final hour. However, I want
Yeah.
to stretch this as long as we can.
Yeah.
And we can
I'm
go, like, I would say 20 more minutes.
Yes.
So I want everybody,
Hey.
because this is really great conversation, and I want everybody to have a chance
Hey.
to kind of talk. And
Absolutely.
so going
Right.
and
Victor, listen, I would love to speak to you at length more if we can.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome to come on my
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Anybody listening, you can contact me at vhviipress@msn.com. And if you wish to testify or witness or
Sure.
share your story on my show, just contact me.
Okay.
I don't own a cell phone. I'm living off the grid because
Understood.
the cell phone is a weapon,
Right.
as shown in.
Well, I
I
will
communicate through email, and I conduct interviews through Skype and Zoom.
I
But
don't
yeah,
have
I mean,
something. I do have something. I got a piece of paper.
you can find it on my website. Go to victorhugocollection.com. That's victorhugocollection.com.
Okay,
And my
cool.
email address is there as well. I
right.
welcome people
But
to share.
let me wrap up this, because Sean had asked me, because I am in agreement with you. Again, first of all, Satan is not a person. The actual word is Hasatan. It means the opposer. Those who oppose God actually don't have a name anymore. That requires a much lengthy explanation. So Satan is not a personage. It's any opposer to the truth. So in that respect, you're absolutely correct that, first of all, most of the Christian church, I'm rejected in even in the groups of people that I rub elbows with, because they lack understanding. Well, why is that? Because the pastors who go to seminaries are not teaching them properly. That's David. That's an offensive statement. I say this all the time. I tell the pastors that, because listen, even if you're formally educated in this world, the education system is a beast education system. So even if you go to seminary, you're still held accountable to know the things that are taught in every secular education institution. So you're still taught lies. I mean, I could go down, run a gamut of all kinds of lies. The construct of the realm we live in, right? Remember, I don't know if you know this. I worked at NASA for 12 years. We do not live on a round spinning ball, for starters. I just throw that out there. There's no such thing as outer space, only outer darkness where there is wailing and gnashing of teeth. Again, we could write a book about this. So all of these things, we've been lied to. Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus Messiah, said that there would be a great deception. The great deception is not coming. We've been born into it. Okay, it's already all around us. It is literally a miracle of God, the Most High God, that people like us see the truth. It's a miracle. Because again, I went to the same freaking schools that everybody did, just like you said a little while ago, Vic. And so I was indoctrinated in every way, shape, or form. And then I bought into it so much, I had a high-paying job at NASA. I traveled all over the world in support of NASA spacecraft projects. I was in Antarctica putting in a satellite data ingest downlink, right? All of these things. I bought into all of these nuanced layers of lies, right? So back again, back to the Nephilim. So we have these beings. They are basically the progeny of angelic hosts who the Most High put over the people to bring them, to lead them into righteousness. Instead, they chose to be worshiped and to have children, offspring. In the scripture, it says that all flesh was corrupt. How much is all? Right? Except for Noah and his 3 sons and their wives. Okay. So then God said he was going to flood the earth. A lot of people teach that. Well, God was an angry God back then, and that's why he killed everyone. Nothing could be further from the truth. When God destroyed the earth, there were no humans in the world. They were not human. And this is something that the corporate body, the corporate church, has very little understanding of. And so because of that, their understanding of what's really happening in the world is completely skewed. Completely.
By the way, are you aware of what's happening right now on Mount Hermon in Syria?
I know what's happening. I know what the importance of Mount Hermon, and also the UN site at the bottom of the mountain and everything.
Yeah. So
That's a whole
you're aware of
nother
what's going on. Yeah.
tangent. I just want to wrap up the whole Nephilim thing. So because my book, and I'm not just trying to sell books here. I'm making like $1 off of each sale, maybe 89 cents. The fact is that we're dealing with spirits. We've been dealing with these spirits ever since the flood. The disembodied spirits of the Nephilim who were killed in the flood. Maybe there were billions of them. I don't know. It was a lot because it was all the people, all the beings corrupted. And so we're dealing with that. Now, there's this new thing coming out. I call this warp speed 2.0.
Yeah.
So Trump on about day 2 basically got up and said, we're giving 500 billion at least. Nobody pays attention to that. Right at the end of the sentence, he slipped in at least 500, $500 billion to AI, artificial intelligence infrastructure. So look, this is a CPU. See this? See this right here? This is another one. Okay. That's tin. That green wafer, right? You can see that is sand, silica. Those pins on the bottom, they're gold. Technology is rocks, the dust of the earth. It's made out of the same stuff that we're made out of. Yeah, but Dave, it doesn't look like a human body. Yeah, but because it's formatted differently. So what's my point about this is that we're coming into an age where you'll hear people start yelling, they're going to put a chip in us. They're going to put a chip in. No, you are the chip. You are already the chip. Just look up Internet of Bodies. We're made of the same stuff that our tech is made out of, okay? We're just formatted differently because God Most High, his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. Somehow he's able to make us alive by his spirit. And so Trump standing up, building out this infrastructure for AI, what's coming in the end game is we are going to permanently interface with the demonic. The mind of AI is literal legion, as it says in the Bible when Jesus came up on a crazy guy in the tombs. And he said, what is your name? And the man said, we are many, we are legion. They didn't have a name. Remember what I said a little while ago? When you oppose God, you don't have a name anymore. You're nameless. You're nameless. You really are. I write about all this stuff in my book. Since Sean indicated we don't have any time really left, my book is Flood of AI, right? The coming flood of AI. If you Google flood of AI and put my name at the end, David Beverley Sr., it will come right to the top of your search. You can visit my website, floodofai.com, and you can get PDF or paperback, MP3 download, Audible, whatever you so desire to check it out. I touch on almost all of the subjects that even Victor, it's really not a large book. It's 107 pages. I touch on a subject and then I get out. And each subject section, there's a website that takes you to more information. And what's your website again, Victor?
VictorHugoCollection.com. I have
Victor.
channels. VictorHugoCollection.com.
Okay,
And if
because I'm going there right now.
And for anybody watching, I'll
Great.
have both your
Okay.
websites in the description and also in the comments. So if you're
Yeah.
watching this, you can go to the video and you'll be able to get the information for both of these websites.
Excellent. Hey, Sean, listen, I appreciate you allowing me to even speak. I
Well,
really
David,
do.
like this is such a great, like I could see right now, we could go on for days, weeks, and months. So I don't really want to like put a box on it and say, oh, it's just this, because
No, it's cool,
I'd
man.
really like to have you both back on again. And, we have I can sit here and there's nothing I love more than listening. Sometimes I'll chit chat a little bit,
Sure,
but I
sure.
love to listen. I love to give people a platform to speak. And I want to have you both back on together, individually, whatever it is. So
Mhm.
even though we might be wrapping up now, if nothing else, this is a perfect lead in for the next show when we are back together again, because there's just too much information right now to put out to try to put it in a box that's this small. But I thank you so much for both of you taking the time to be on the channel. And I'm very honored, really, to have you both with us today. We are starting to get a little bit close to it's 11:08, so we've got about 12 minutes. Before we finish, though, what I would like to do is to give each of one of you the opportunity. Victor, I think, the situation that we're in is definitely not uh it's not great necessarily. Maybe in some
That's
ways
a
it
nice
is.
way to put it. Yeah.
I'm trying to be as nice about that as I can. But what is the vision of how do we turn this around? Like, what needs to happen to bring us back to where we need to be? What are the steps? What are the steps that need to happen on a grand scale? And what does the individual person on an individual micro scale need to do to be a part of change that's going to actually transition us to where we should be and get us off this timeline that we're on right now, where we're kind of like living in Darth Vader's world of reality. How do we get out of that? And I'm going to throw that to you first, Victor, and then maybe David, you can answer the same question or build on Victor's answer.
Having lived in communist China and now living in the former Soviet Union, which emancipated itself from the communism that was there from the Bolshevik Revolution until the late, or I think it was early 90s. I end every show by telling everybody, united we stand, divided we fall. Never give up, never surrender, keep shining, live, love, flow. If you do that, you will get through to the other side. Right now, it's a matter of surviving 2025, because this year is going to be unlike anything that you have experienced, and then take whatever you think is like the most unbelievable thing and crank it up to 11. We're already seeing planes crashing. We're already seeing attempted assassination psyops. We're already seeing the artificial intelligence, which what they're showing us is pale in comparison to what the dark forces that disguise themselves as governments have. I worked on CERN at a very young age. I had no idea what the implications of it were, but I was sent to some genius camp in Southampton, Long Island, and I was playing chess with chess masters and talking to Nobel laureates who were quizzing me about how to create this CERN and how to split the atom, which at the age of 13 seemed kind of bizarre to me, but whatever. it was an interesting conversation. And fast forward to now, where they're actually finding demons that are interdimensional and are entering into this realm. And like David was saying, yes, there's demons. We're living in a interdimensional realm, and they've entered here, and they are communicating with us through this artificial intelligence, which is satanic. And I understand people who I respect are using artificial intelligence, but it's a trap. I don't use it. I've been told by people you should use it, Victor. It would really help you out. And I'm like, you know what? I'm noticing there's always a price to pay for that kind of a thing. And so I'd rather just, if I don't reach the billions of people, so be it. But the people that I am reaching, what's happening is they're spreading it through word of mouth. And that's how my website and my channels, which have been censored and shadow banned, I'm banned from what I call YouTube. I'm banned from LinkedIn. I'm banned from Facebook and Instagram and Venmo, not Venmo, but there was Vimeo. So, I mean, the only way that people find out about me is through word of mouth. And that's the one thing that can't be censored. And what I learned living here in the former Soviet Union is that the fake news in Russia, or in the communist Russia, not Russia. Russia right now is not as bad as they want you to believe, people. It's really, these are good people. And they're not to be messed with, by the way. These people are giants. I mean, they are bears. They have as you can see, they're being attacked and they're being very reserved. But when they get pushed to the limit, you don't want to see how intense these people can be. So I'm warning my brothers and sisters in the United States, make sure you get the government that's in there right now. And I'm talking about Trump. He's Trojan Trump. He's not who you think he is. And this is coming from somebody who voted for him twice. I lost business. I lost family because they hated him, not because of the reasons that you should fear him now, because he's a trap. They hated him because of the nonsense that they were spewing on television, which I now realize was a psyop. They wanted you to hate him. They wanted you to hate him tremendously to create this division. You know, the red and the Republicans, the Democrats, it's all a unit party. It's all just fake. But anyway, when the news would come on at 5 o'clock, these people, they would all go out to walk their dogs because they knew that what was on TV were lies and they didn't want to hear it. So they would walk their dogs. And if they didn't have a dog, they would go for a walk and meet the people who had the dogs. And that's when they were able to talk. And that's how they collectively planned to escape from the shackles of communism. So that's what needs to start happening on a local level at the United States. I also noticed it when I was in China, because as much as it is George Orwell 1984, as these people who are in the Oracle are trying to do, again, these people, if you notice who's in charge of AI, it's the Jews, because they want to control people and then they want to exterminate all the non-Jews to have their 2,800 slaves. Look it up, people. I'm not making this up. The people in China were able to speak to me candidly because they knew the places where they could speak and not be seen. So just like in George Orwell's 1984, you'll always find a loophole somewhere. Find that loophole, communicate through word of mouth, and you're not all going to make it. But those of you who will make it are going to be stronger, are going to be the ones who start off the new future. And I do see a new future in the United States, and the rest of the world does too. Everybody's rooting for the US. Everybody loves the US. The Russians love the US. The Chinese love the US. Like I said, the Iranians love the US. Everybody loves the US. But what's there right now is not the US. It's satanic. It's Sodom and Gomorrah. It's Why America. It's evil pure. And as long as you enable that, as long as you accept that, you will not survive this, because the evil eat their own, quite literally. They eat their own. And I see democracy, or not democracy. Democracy is not good. The United States it's a constitutional republic, just like where I am right now. It's a constitutional republic. And I see freedom coming for China, because it's unsustainable. Communism is unsustainable. And so, and I noticed that the Chinese people, they're coming around. and the Russians are doing fine. So there may not be a future for the United States the way people see it now as a cesspool that they've accepted, but I see a golden age coming for the United States after this has been washed away like Noah's flood. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of people dying, and I'm sorry to say that, but it has to happen. It has to happen. It's just toxic right now in the U.S. It's unsustainable. You can't have a society that enables pedophilia because the pedophiles destroy the mind of these children, and when they grow up to be pedophiles, and they grow up to be psychopaths. So you have to stop that right off the bat. That's like, it's not good. You're grooming kids in school. That's nonsense. They tried doing that here in the Republic of Georgia. I was there during the protest in front of the parliament. They beat a journalist to death because they told the journalist, listen, we see what you're doing. You're trying to corrupt our nation with your propaganda that it's okay to make these children into pedophiles, future pedophiles. And so they beat him to death. You could look it up. And I was like, wow, okay, these people are serious. They tried to do the whole LGBTQ pride thing. No, didn't work. And it turns out when they investigated it, it was the U.S. Embassy that was behind it. It was a false flag with the U.S. Embassy that they were inciting this, just like they just did recently after the elections. They told these people that it wasn't a free and fair election. And you know how I know Trump is involved in this? Because he had the former president of the Republic of Georgia, who wasn't even Georgian, she was French, at his inauguration. And now she's working for the Rockefeller Foundation. And she's working with other communists who happen to be Jews to create a downfall for this Orthodox Christian country. And the reason why this country is protected is because it's God's country. These people are Orthodox Christian.
Right.
And so there's something to that. You know, these people they're good people. So I'm blessed to be here. I'm glad that God put me here. I never intended to be here. Fate put me here, and now I'm here, and I'm reporting news to the outside world thanks to shows like yours. So thank you for having me on, and thank you for sharing time. It's the most precious gift we have. God bless
I love
you
it,
all.
man. And I'm super grateful for your time as well. David, real quick, I know we're running close to ending right now. What are the steps you see we take to make the world a better place as we try to pull ourselves out of this?
One thing I just want to say is I love it when Victor said, very seldom do I hear a man say, we're not a democracy. Democracy is equivalent to communism on steroids. And every time I hear an educator tell our democracy needs, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic. And oh my Lord, I don't know what's happening to the minds of people, but in respect to how to navigate through what's coming, Victor is spot on. We're going to suffer great losses, folks. There's going to be a lot of pain. We're going to pay for our sins, our slothfulness, our allowing evil men to get away with evil and just going, well, as long as I'm fat and comfortable, it's cool. As long as the dollar is buying me gas at a decent price. And I perceive that these nations that actually were at one time really evil governments, the people are beginning to see the errors of their ways and coming out of those systems. So here the scenario is shifting. We were once a purveyor of righteousness around the world. Not anymore. Not for a long time, sadly. So there's a scripture, it says that the kingdom of God is not eating and drinking, but it is righteousness, peace, and joy in the Holy Spirit. We need to live according to that, walk according to the Spirit, which is righteousness, peace, and joy. And so when we do that, and then not until we do that, and everything that those three words encompass, we are not going to be right in our lives. We're just not. And everyone in the world's heard of the mark of the beast, right? You all have heard of the mark of the beast, right? So you understand that Hasatan, the evil ones, they only corrupt what God does, what the Most High does. And so they don't understand that the Most High, his name is Yahovah, okay? They don't understand that he has a mark. Like there's one scripture that says, I will put my mark upon those who cry in the streets for the abominations done in the city. But there's a scripture, it's Numbers 6:24, and it's God instructs Moses to tell Aaron, the high priest, hey, this is how you put my name or my mark upon my people. And most people are familiar with the English. It's the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift his countenance to you and give you peace. But in the Hebrew, it's Yavrei Kaka Yahweh Ve'yishme Raka. Ya'er Yahweh Peneveleka Vechuneka. Yisa Yahweh Peneveleka Ve'yusimleka Shalom. Peace in Jesus' name.
Beautiful, beautiful. David, I think we're we're coming up to the end of the show here, and we've had some phenomenal guests. And Victor, like I said, both you and David, we want you back on, right? Like we want to have you back on and continue, and also and eventually what we're going to do is we're going to be able to go live so we can ask questions from the audience and field questions, but. I love, number one, the global perspective of somebody like yourself, Victor, who's out in the world and really on boots on the ground, seeing firsthand how people really live, how they think, the real true reality of what it's like to be with the Russian and the Chinese people. Because I agree with you, they're beautiful people. Nothing but love and kindness to all of them because they have so much history, so much culture. And when you're all sitting down, you talked earlier about everybody having kids. I'm going to share this reality that I had, and then we can give it to David and finalize. I spent like 5-6 years ago, I went to Disneyland. I have a goddaughter. I want to say at the time she was 7, 8 years old, and and I'll never forget. I was sitting at Disneyland. I think we were going to get an ice cream or something. And I was sitting down, and as I was there, I was looking around, and there was a Chinese family and Middle Eastern family, Hispanic family. All these people were there. And I thought, we're really all the same. All of us in our hearts want to take care of our kids. We want to be loving parents. We want to be able to say, hey, you want to go play with so-and-so? Go, you guys go jump on your bikes. And at that moment, I really had this realization that there's really nothing different about any of us. If we're talking about, wanting to do the best job we can, being a good parent is always the start. Having, a good job of taking care of our kids, we have the same basic fundamental values. And when we get beyond all these adjectives and designations and all these boxes that we've been put into, and we're able to sit down as people and say, hey, man, how old is your kid? Oh, that's so funny. Well, my kid, that kid. And I don't actually have kids. This was with my goddaughter, but I know that that's the reality. That was really an enlightening moment. And I go back to that sometimes because as much as they want to, try to separate everybody, when it's all said and done, and someday in this reality, we're all sitting at a big Disney World, and all of us families and all these different people can all hang out together, we will find that there is more of us that are in common than anything that could ever be different.
You're totally right. Well, I remember when I was at the North Pole the first time, we stopped in a place called Resolute Bay. Been to the North Pole a couple times for NASA stuff. And the Inuits, it was a time when Canada was giving back the land to the natives, the Inuits, and Nunavut territory. And it was amazing to me. Here we are in a frozen wasteland. There's not a blade of grass. You can't even get to soil. It's just iced over. And there was a young child hanging from monkey bars in a playground. His name was Noah. He was just this beautiful little child. And I was like, we are all so much alike. We really are. There's this amazing connect. It's so simplistic. And I think Victor even alluded to it, is getting out and talking to stop this. I use this tech, but getting out and talking to one another again. The that is the way these things are intended. It's right. And so, what am I calling? It looks like I'm calling David Ferdinand. I accidentally touched the button. Yes, I love you guys. You're beautiful. I'm looking at Victor's website. I'm sending the contact, dude. Um, listen, I'm going to get off of here. And again, I just want to thank you for allowing me to come in and speak. And listen, God bless you guys, all of y'all.
David, you know what they say, brother. Mi casa, su casa. Our house is your house. You're always welcome. Victor, you're always welcome. David, give us a final send off, brother, and then we'll call this one an episode, and we will see both these guys again in the very near future. And thank you once again for sharing your time, thoughts, knowledge, experiences. I love it. I'm like a little kid in a candy store.
Where do we find this? Where do we find this? Because I was called in. Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah.
So we have a YouTube channel, which is I'll send you the link to it. If you go to medbedvideos.com, you'll find it there. It's a conglomeration of a lot of information. It's actually something that's growing and expanding so much that it's hard to put like a lid on that too, because we interview and I talk to so many different people, but I deal with a lot of really messed up people, really sick people every
Yes,
day
sir.
in another business that I've got, selling health and medical equipment. And I wanted to start bringing knowledge and information and try to help people, get information on technology that would help them. A lot of ALS, quadriplegic, paraplegic, stroke, heart attack. If it's messed up, they come to me, namely first because they need high-end medical equipment for hospital-grade care at home.
You know what Rife is, right? You ever heard of Rife?
I'm very well versed with Rife.
We use Rife machines in our house. Yes.
And being a NASA guy, you probably know a lot of really cool stuff. But I'll send you both links to the channel, and then I post everything also on Rumble, and I post everything also on X and
is it
and
WYTPOD? Is that what it is?
What's that?
WYTPOD?
I'm not sure what that is, but if you go to if you just type in medbedvideos.com,
right.
Does that take you to a YouTube channel?
Well, I see Sean Callahan unlocking medbed potential, medbeds technology.
It should be a YouTube channel.
Yeah, I'm looking for. I'll find it.
But
yeah.
But I'll also send you a link as well. And this is an ongoing. I think this is episode 15, where we're just bringing in people to talk about things that number one we need to hear about. Number two, on things that we can do to try to make the world a better place and get us off our chutzpah.
Listen, like I said, I'm going to take off. I'm looking for you. I'm already sending a contact to Victor, and you had mentioned. So David Ferdinand is the guy that sent me the link, and I really didn't know who he was, but I was like, well, I'm curious. Let me click on this and see what's up. And was that who was going to speak? You wanted to have a closeout?
Yeah.
Yeah.
David, are you still there?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on. What happens is when David called, it cut off my microphone, so I can't really hear. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, there you go. Shake it up and down. Put a smile on that face too, and then we'll be doing that all day long. Bobbleheads. That's what we've turned into, right, Victor? All we are bobbleheads. Are you still with us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm here.
Great. Let me, because I'm having difficulty hearing. Let me, first of all, I want to mention that Fabiano Diaz is with us, and how that actually connects with what Victor was talking about. He mentioned on several occasions soul currency. And so actually, I'm not going to get into too much about Fabiano. We're going to be ending this episode and going on to a different link. And then Fabiano is going to be mentioning some of what he's doing. He works directly with Bitwage, and he's very involved with all of the financial markets and systems and cryptocurrency and all of that. So in my opinion, that's kind of the dead matrix, might be a bad word, but that's kind of the matrix of contracts and inventory and mining these cryptocurrencies and speculation and risk and all of that. What we're talking about with soul currency, we're talking about having a global platform that trades time. We've talked about this on other episodes, but this is a very interesting concept because really, without time, we cannot apply attention. And without the beginning of time in the fourth dimension is when the third dimensional figure, which is a biogeometric shape, in the fourth dimension, that's where the soul, and that's where the soul currency comes in right at that point. So what we're doing, we're going to be talking with Fabiano about both sides of the coin. You know, if one side is money, 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 the other side is time, time, time. And if we have a choice in our society, we can either trade in time or we can trade in money. The real idea and the real effort for many people that I'm dealing with and walking with every day in the circle, and new information coming, and everything is just manifesting or giving birth. That's what it feels like. This is the birthing time. We are going through maybe a rebirth or a renewal or reset or whatever. But really what it comes down to is we don't really want money, and time is really also artificial in many ways. But we do know we have 60 minutes, 60 seconds in a minute, nanoseconds, moments in a second. And so when we do holographics and the things that David Beverley, the reason why I contacted David is because of his work with AI and quantum and all of the story and how he actually blends it with his religious indoctrination or beliefs and looking at scripture and really verifying that we are here today. This is 2025, and all indications are this is the year of the transformation. So, you know, we've listened to a couple of comments about kind of like a doomsday, and also that people are going to perish and that we need to pay. You know, what we're trying to do is come to the center, a very specific point. And David, I don't know if you know it, vector equilibrium is what it's actually called. Vector equilibrium. And that is 0.00 absolute. And that is the key. You need those four symbols or words or whatever, indications for the key to work. It's a quantum key. So when you come to the 0 point field, which most of our science right now, even Kelvin absolute zero, is not the center of the zero. We've never been there. But when you come to the 0 point field, which most people would agree that we do have these energetic bodies, and we know the chakras, and we know the human body condition or decoding that condition. And that's what Dr. Peter Fraser in Australia proved. And he actually made a documentary film and created a device through Ness Health. But Ness Health, it describes all of the neurological connections that our human being has in these energy fields and the different phases of it. And so, but everything in our existence comes from this 0.00 absolute. Notice I didn't say everything comes from nothing, because it really, that's not the truth. See, in 0.00 absolute, once you're there it is nothing, literally. And even David mentioned about God. In other shows we talked about, to get into 0.00 absolute, which is the Akashic Library of Records, and some other terms that we've spoken about here on the show with Sean, some of the technical stuff, more mystical, mythological, or what have you, or the Holy Grail, or the Emerald Tablets, all of that is in 0.00 absolute. That is the library. In order to get into the library, you need to pass through the gateless gate. And in a long story short, the only way you can get past that gate is to be totally, absolutely unconditional. What that means specifically to our understanding or our concept of what a God is and what creation is, that needs to be left at the front door of the library. So it's not like a anti religious type of belief. This is mathematics and science. And all of the stuff that Dave and many other people like Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, I don't know, David, if you know Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, but she did the EE system. And that is a device that if you don't know about it, I'd be surprised, because she's very kind of famous with NASA and also a dame. And she's like with Oxford University and all of these other, wonderful accolades and achievements. So, but the EE system is something that we're trying to actually work with all of these healing technologies. Let me answer in closing here. First of all, I want to also refer to Victor, and thank you very much, Victor. And really, we need to really, I don't know if it's possible, like very quickly get on your show and you can actually interview me. And so I can describe the proposal that we have, not only for you, but also now with David on the phone. And literally everyone that's coming into this curiosity, like David said, oh, this guy called me and he sent me this link and I thought I would check it out. Hopefully now, through the authenticity of this conversation and the obvious transparency and our willingness and courage to talk about some of these issues in life that other people wouldn't do in a million years. They just wouldn't. They're afraid about being disconnected. And so the idea of whistleblowers, and I'll end it on this. One of the questions that are being asked now when you go to get a job, like on a C level, like a managerial level in an interview, one of the new questions that is frequently asked is to the candidate applying for the job, when was the last time that you blew the whistle? When was the last time that you blew the whistle? It may have been never, or it may have been, like in my case, I blew the whistle 15 years ago, but I haven't stopped. I'm still blowing and blowing. I'm getting tired. It's like blowing up a balloon that never ends. And so, and I'm not going to stop. And nor is Victor, nor is David, nor is Sean, nor is Fabiano, nor. We, in order to come to terms with who we are, our conscious potential and our unity is really what that defines. We need to first there's three things that happen. The first thing is open communications that are transparent, unedited, uncensored, real time, like what we're doing with this World Impact News channel. And so what that does is actually opens up the throat chakra. So when the energy comes into our body, we can process that. If it feels good and it ethically and whatever makes sense scientifically, it goes up into our throat. The problem is, if we can't express that, it gets clogged. And then the energy gets out of resonance. And so really the first thing to do to answer Sean's question to Victor is to have open, transparent communications that is a public broadcast channel that is not owned by any affiliates, that is not corrupted with these your financial incentives of basically selling out and hush orders and all of the things we know in our judicial system that's going on. And both Victor and also David mentioned the constitutional republic, and that's the God's honest truth. And what I'm saying right now, this project here that we're working on, coming up in February 21st, 21 days. So today is February 1st. The next 21 days, every day, we are working towards the milestone, which is opening on the 21st, this festival called the Hibernation Festival. And that is an 8-day, 7-night festival, pre-carnival. So it will get a lot of attention. And so it ends on March 1st. So that's February 21st to March 1st. And the reason why I contacted with Victor is for the MAMM, the Modern Arts Music Movement and the Guild, because we want to have a full-time broadcast station here, but not like a physical place, only 1% physical and 99% silent, basically metaphysic and in the plasma. So it doesn't require like huge investments. It does. We're suggesting the social currency or social capital or time equity is really the driving force, not force, but the driving glue that pulls everything together. Because now people are not going to just constantly say there's no money, there's no movement. we can't do anything without money. That's ridiculous. That's not a choice. That's not free will. So in the future, the idea globally would be that people can pay in money or some currency, Bitcoin or whatever. And Fabiano can mention thousands of different tokens and coins and stuff that's going crazy. And they're all like valueless. Ultimately, they're all full of hard air. But this particular event, Hibernation Festival, also, David, you might be interested because we're also calling it the Quantum AI Summit of the Latin Americas. So this event would be involving technology, and that's where Sean comes in. And Sean, I've already offered that we can set up like a village with these kiosks and features maybe some of the equipment that he has, like the Rift machine or other. If we already have it here in Brazil, we can invite people to come here and basically be exhibitors. Or if they have wellness clinics and they're, we can fill up, maybe 12 or 15 of these kiosks and basically have an expo on this island. It's so beautiful. I don't want to get into all of the details. And I know that we're already way over time. And I apologize also to Fabiano, because I'm not sure. Let me ask, Fabiano, are you still there? Are you still with us?
I'm right here, Dave. Don't worry. No, I'm fine. I'm fine. I don't have, I'm at your guys' disposal. You guys were having great conversation before. I mean, I'm going to ask Sean for the link earlier. So I'm definitely going to check on your guys' work, on your gentlemen's work.
It's in the chat, Fabiano. If you open up the chat section, you can see all the links in the chat. We put all the links in there. And also, I was showing your LinkedIn. I'm up on your link. It's a Bitwage, Fabiano.
That's it.
Yes, I actually have it up on my screen.
I actually have you on my screen too. Check it out. While you guys are talking,
we're stalking each other.
I could see you were mentioning AI and having all these references to the scripture, so I knew that you were talking serious stuff. So I was just checking on more of you.
We're right on, brother.
And then Victor, the time I arrived, he talked a little bit less, but I also could see he's a very knowledgeable man. Got also curious about what you were mentioning,
as I
the
said,
destiny of.
As I said, I'm going to have to leave. I'm going to have to leave the meeting. But listen, you guys are all awesome, wonderful. It was a blessing that David, in the first place, dropped this link. And listen, hopefully we'll get to see each other again sometime soon. All right.
Yes, sir.
I hope so.
Thank you so much, David. We greatly appreciate your time, and thank you for being part of the show. And we can't wait to get you back on again soon, whenever it's good for you. We'll circle back. You can let us know. But like I said, this is a platform for you. This is a platform for Victor. This is a platform for Fabiano. Our goal is to have this platform where, people can share this knowledge. And me and David are like kids in a candy store. It's like I love to sit down and learn and just get exposure to all this information. I think it's phenomenal. And I know our audience will love it too, So thank you so much for all that.
Well, listen, Fabiano, reach out to me, bud. I got my email in there, okay?
Will do, sir.
Okay, man. God bless you guys.
God bless you.
God bless you.
So, David, with that being said, I think I'm gonna end this call. I know I've said that like 8 times. It's still going, but it's too good to shut down. But I mean, Fabiano was Fabiano going to be the guest for the second podcast?
Yeah, that is correct. So like I said, my speaker is really very poor right now. If I sign out and go back on, it will turn back on. But once it's interrupted, anyways, I don't know. Put a thumbs up. Are we coming back on in that second link right now, or should we just finalize it for today? Tomorrow's Sunday. We're off. You're off. Specifically, I'm on, but I don't ever shut up.
If you don't mind,
on Monday we have that meeting with Eric Mathis, Joseph Eric Mathis, which is very important. Also with the conversation everyone is involved with, the work that he's doing is incredible. So Monday's show at 10 Eastern time, probably going to be a little bit over 1 hour, but we're trying to keep these to 1 hour. So what I want to end and just say this: the difference between the World Impact News Network and any other network that I know even podcasts, is that what we are is a 24, 60-minute, 24 shows, 60-minute a day venue where people, when they come in, we mention, like in the morning, if somebody comes in from like Tokyo or something and they're talking about a subject, we're on that. That's the real time. And also when guests like David and also Victor come on, we want to continue to mention their names. And even Jesse Howe with the missing link, you know, he's on a show this afternoon, for example. So to help support Jesse and also stay intimately aware with what's happening. And it's important because it's very valuable use of time is what I'm saying. What we are doing right now is giving birth. Just imagine like your first son or daughter, the first time you have to like rush to, I mean, the baby might be born in the car. I've done it twice. You know, it's wonderful, the outcome, but going through that, wow, it's scary as hell. And it's stressful because you never know, is the baby going to be born? If it is, how are you going to take care, especially a first time dad. And so anyways, the whole picture here is materializing. We are manifesting. We are teaching people to have the courage to talk. Like Sean, you said that, you know, I think Sean or somebody in this conversation said, you know, people are kind of silenced. They're not blowing the whistle. It doesn't have to be the whistle. Just express yourself. And that's where Victor comes in with the studio that we're proposing here. During the event, February 21st to March 1st, the Hibernation Festival, the idea is having a workshop or a work island where when we come here, we're making that festival. We're doing some type of infrastructure. We're planting things. We're actually showcasing what does it mean not to be money, money, money. When we do the soul currency, it becomes a time issue. So when you come for 1 hour, for example, to the island, you can get one time credit. If you're going to do something, and that doesn't mean like physical labor. If you don't like physical labor and don't want to be planting, you know, you go into our hub, our social impact hub area, which is basically a big table. It's a round table of 12 that actually sits the circle of 12. And so you can share and you can do co-working and you can be entrepreneurial and creative in the moment. And then if there's an issue, we jump onto the World Impact News Network and we actually discuss it now, and other people from all over the world. The only way we can do this, Sean, and anyone listening, is by being transparent. We cannot do this if we go to the traditional path of producing movies and films and writing books and publishers, and we can't do it. We don't have the money. First of all, I don't have the money to do that. And Fabiano can talk a little bit when we get off here, when he comes back on, if he's coming back on. Is he coming back on? Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Fabiano,
I'm all right. Let's do it.
I might need though to reschedule Fabiano because we're already a half hour into your time frame, and I do have some stuff I got to get done today. And it's like the first day, it's like 60 degrees. It's the first day it's been sunny here in like 3 weeks, and I've got to get outside. Like just being inside right now, looking outside is painful. So as much as I would love to sit on the computer and sit in my office all day, I'm like going, no, dude, you've got to get some balance. It's like, get out of the office.
Oh, yeah.
But in all honesty, Fabiano, I don't want to be rushed. I want you to have a full hour time segment. And
I'm actually, guys, thank you, Sean, first of all. Thanks for inviting me. I came because David invited me to come, and David's a great friend. If he invited me, it could only be a good thing for me. But I came with very little knowledge what was going to face. So I guess the two things I can mainly talk about is because, like David said, you know, I'm in B2H for 9 years now, and then all the conversations I have with decision makers on, you know, the field of, you know, Bitcoin and its derivatives, the so-called crypto. And I have, you know, plenty experience on that field to share, you know, living with the very pioneers, you know, having lunches with them. So that's been a great experience that I could share. And about the project at the island, because we and David worked together, you know, around the years of 2012, 13, you know, trying to conduct the project that he's having at the island, a beautiful project It would be great if people could come and see, what is being built there. And it's in my home. It's not my actual hometown, but somewhere I would go to, since childhood. And well, these are, the 2 points that I could, develop on and, share some information that could be helpful, interesting to learn. But at your guys' disposal. I mean, if you guys want to do it now, I mean, I don't have anything to do later on. If you want to set for the next day, I'm at your disposal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't know anything about that. So I would love to learn because I'd like to go right to the head of the class and get somebody that really has a lot of in-depth knowledge on it. It is really the future of where a lot of the currency is going. And so I could sit down once again, go get my popcorn and be just doing this, going, wow, this is amazing. I love this. More and more and more. Throw a few questions out there. But Fabiano, in all fairness to you, I want you to have a full hour, and I don't, like because of the time frame right now, but I'm really happy because this is turning out to be a great teaser for that video. So when I say,
Right.
or David says, hey, Fabiano is going to be on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever day is good for you, people already have a little bit of a teaser. And this is good also then with our next show with Victor. And Victor, this is great because, we're bringing in all these people and we're getting all these different backgrounds to kind of interact and exchange information. It was actually a lot of fun. So if that's okay with you, Fabiano, we'll get in touch with you. David will, and maybe Tuesday or Wednesday get you on because you deserve a full hour, and I want you. And I always say a full hour, David. We've never done a show that's an hour. Every show that we say is an hour is at least an hour and 20 minutes. And today it's actually going to be an hour. It's almost 2 hours. So in theory, it sounds good. In reality, you can't put all this into a box. We try to, but I love the flow, and I love to just say, hey, you know what? It goes late. It goes late. It is what it is. And Victor, I want to just throw it back to you one more time and thank you for being on here. If you have any last comments you want to share, we will actually this time try to wrap it up.
Just if you want to see more of my work, go to victorhugocollection.com. You can scroll to the bottom of the page and find my channels on BitChute and Rumble at Maverick Artist Victor Hugo and Victor Hugo Art. And just keep doing what you're doing, guys. Never give up, never surrender. Keep shining. Live, love, flow.
I love that, man.
Great.
You can't get any better than that. Well, with that being said, I'm not even going to try to say another word. Thank you, everybody, for watching the podcast. David, Fabiano, and Victor, God bless you all. We'll see you again soon. Same time, same place. God bless you.
Wow.